Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am super excited to step in as your CMA professor for this session. Today, we're cracking open a really vital, heavily tested topic for your exam prep: capacity management and analysis in the supply chain. You know, as a management accountant, figuring out how your organization handles its operational limits, well, it's not just about factory floors. It is literally about the financial heartbeat of the entire business. So let's just dive right into it.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today's masterclass. We'll start with the capacity dilemma, move into the KMI framework, break down overhead variances, explore supply chain strategies, and then wrap it all up with a real CMA exam scenario. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the capacity dilemma. It's all about finding that just right balance. Managing capacity is honestly the ultimate balancing act for any organization. It's kind of like the classic story of Goldilocks. Think about the financial bleed of having way too much capacity. You've got machines just gathering dust, massive warehouses sitting completely half-empty, and idle workers. All of that just drives your fixed overhead costs through the roof. But flip it around. What if you have too little capacity? Well, now you're facing stockouts, missed deadlines, absolutely furious customers, and ultimately lost revenue. Your main job as a CMA is to help your organization find that sweet spot right in the middle. Capacity that is just right.
Moving right along to Section 2, the KMI framework. Let's look at the 4 levels of capacity.
Before we can even think about strategically managing capacity, we have to actually measure it accurately, right? The CMA syllabus requires you to deeply understand these 4 distinct levels of capacity. They're defined by the Consortium for Advanced Management International, or KMI. I want you to think of this like a logical staircase. We're going to start at the very top in this totally impossible ideal world and walk our way down step by step into short-term reality.
First up, right at the top of our staircase, is theoretical or ideal capacity. This is the absolute maximum output an operation can hit if everything runs perfectly. We're talking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Zero downtime, zero machine breakdowns, no holidays, and zero human errors. Now, obviously, this is an absolutely unattainable engineering standard. You're literally never going to hit this. But you might be wondering, why do we even use it? Well, it serves purely as a benchmark. By comparing reality against theoretical capacity, management can measure the total, absolute waste in their entire system.
Let's step down one level and see how this builds into reality. This is practical capacity. Here we inject a much-needed dose of realism. Practical capacity is the maximum output where a plant can operate efficiently, but, and this is key, it actually accounts for unavoidable interruptions. Because unlike theoretical capacity, humans actually need to eat lunch, right? Machines eventually need oil, workers need their breaks and holidays, and production lines need setup times. And here is a massive tip for your exam. Management experts highly recommend using practical capacity to calculate your predetermined overhead rates. Why? Because unlike the other measures, it doesn't hide the cost of idle capacity.
Now let's compare our final 2 steps on the staircase: normal capacity versus master budget capacity. Normal capacity looks at the long-term picture. It's the level of capacity utilization that satisfies average customer demand over a multi-year cycle, usually like 3 to 5 years. It smooths out all those seasonal peaks and valleys. On the other hand, master budget, sometimes called expected annual capacity, is your short-term reality. It is based strictly on next year's sales forecast. So if a severe recession is projected to hit next year, your master budget capacity is going to drop significantly lower than your long-term normal capacity.
Okay, on to Section 3, fixed overhead variances. Let's break down the math behind capacity. Now that we've got the 4 levels down, let's look at how they actually impact the accounting numbers. Brace yourselves a bit here, because the capacity level management chooses directly dictates how products are costed. Think about the formula we use. Your predetermined fixed overhead rate equals your estimated budgeted fixed overhead costs divided by your chosen capacity level, whether you're measuring that in hours or units. Now, the numerator, your budgeted costs, is pretty much fixed in the short term. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that the denominator you select is the main driver of your overhead rate.
Let's put our CMA hats on to really understand the mathematical consequences of this. If you choose a massive denominator, like theoretical capacity, your fixed overhead rate per unit is going to look incredibly small. Why? Because you're spreading those fixed costs over a huge, albeit totally unrealistic, number of units. Conversely,
If you pick a really small denominator, like master budget capacity during a terrible economic year, you are spreading those exact same fixed costs over very few units. The result? Your fixed overhead rate per unit absolutely skyrockets. And this brings us right to the production volume variance, or PVV. This variance triggers any time your actual production misses the capacity level you chose as your denominator. If you produce less than your chosen capacity, you're going to have underapplied overhead, and that results in an unfavorable PVV. For the exam, you absolutely must remember this translation. An unfavorable production volume variance represents the cost of idle capacity. It is the literal price tag of letting expensive factory resources just sit there unused.
Section 4, Supply Chain Strategies. It's time to talk about adjusting our capacity to demand.
Let's shift gears from accounting math over to operational tactics. How do supply chain managers actually align their physical capacity with moving market demand? Well, the exam is going to test your understanding of 3 primary supply chain strategies. First up is the lead strategy. This means aggressively adding capacity, like, say, building a whole new factory, before the demand actually materializes. It ensures you never miss a market opportunity, but man, the risk is huge. You're stuck with massive fixed costs if the expected demand just ghosts you. Next is the lag strategy. This is the conservative route. You wait until actual demand exceeds your current capacity before expanding. It's very safe on the cost side, but you risk losing frustrated customers to faster competitors. Finally, we have the tracking or match strategy. This involves adding capacity in small, agile increments to closely follow demand trends. It beautifully balances the risks of leading and lagging. But let me warn you, it is logistically incredibly complex to pull off in the real world.
Finally, Section 5, the CMA exam scenario. Watch out for the denominator trap.
All right, it is time to put your professor's teachings to the test. Let's tackle a classic conceptual question the ICMA just loves to throw at candidates. Read through this scenario with me. A company wishes to highlight the cost of unused capacity directly on their internal management reports to motivate managers to find new business. So, which capacity level should they use as the denominator for calculating their fixed overhead rate? Is it A, theoretical capacity, B, master budget capacity, C, practical capacity, or D, normal capacity? Take a quick second to lock in your answer based on what we just talked about regarding exposing waste.
All right, time's up. And the correct answer is C, practical capacity. Why is that? Well, because if you use practical capacity, the overhead rate only covers the resources actually needed to produce goods efficiently. Any unused capacity stands out dramatically as an unfavorable variance on the income statement. It literally forces management to confront the waste. This is exactly where the trap lies, guys. If you had chosen master budget capacity, you'd be taking the cost of that idle capacity and just burying it inside the product cost itself, effectively hiding all that inefficiency from management. It's a really sneaky trap. But hey, now you know exactly how to avoid it.
Let's wrap up this explainer with a quick, final checklist of the crucial concepts you need to lock down for exam day. Remember, always view capacity as a balance to avoid excess fixed costs on one side or lost sales on the other. You must be able to confidently distinguish between the 4 CAM-I levels. Understand that your denominator choice directly drives the fixed overhead rate and the resulting production volume variance. And finally, make sure you can analyze the strategic timing risks between lead, lag, and tracking strategies.
I want to leave you today with a provocative question to chew on. Is your organization's capacity hiding its inefficiencies, or is it exposing them? As a future CMA, you have the analytical power to shine a huge spotlight on that hidden waste. I really hope you found this explainer helpful and empowering. Now go hit that test bank, practice those capacity variance questions, and stay motivated. You've totally got this.